Imagine for a moment that you held absolute power, the power to decide the ultimate fate of all evil in the world. If you could instantly eliminate everything that is a source of pain, injustice, and suffering, would you destroy evil without hesitation? The temptation to eradicate evil is almost irresistible, especially when we think of the painful and seemingly unjust consequences it brings into our lives. However, the biblical perspective on evil, its purpose, and its eventual destruction goes far beyond an immediate solution. It invites us to reflect on a deeper dimension of divine justice, where good and evil play specific roles, and where the timing of all things is carefully measured. This theme challenges us to understand the power of free will, divine love and patience, and the pursuit of redemption and spiritual maturity, which ultimately triumph over all opposing forces. Since the creation of the world, the Bible portrays God as the creator of everything, encompassing both the physical universe and spiritual beings, including angels. Unlike a rigid system where all actions are predetermined, God granted these beings the gift of free will, the ability to choose between good and evil. This applies to both humans and angels. Among these beings, Satan, originally a prominent angel named Lucifer, used his freedom to challenge the Creator himself. Motivated by arrogance and a desire for power, he aspired to be equal to God, leading to his fall and dragging along with him a portion of the angels who chose to follow his rebellion. This cosmic event of rebellion plays an essential role in the biblical narrative as it reflects the central conflict between good and evil. It is important to note that Lucifer was not created as an adversary, Satan. He became God's opponent by his own choice. This aspect underscores the importance of free will in the divine plan, for without this freedom, the beings created by God could not love or obey him genuinely and spontaneously. Thus, free will, though a gift from God, carries responsibility. It brings consequences for those who exercise it, whether angels or humans. The continued existence of Satan and the fallen angels, despite their rebellion, can be understood in light of this principle of free will. If God had immediately eliminated Satan and the fallen angels, it would have contradicted the very principle of freedom he had established. The ongoing presence of Satan and his followers reflects that God respects the choices of his creatures, even when they act contrary to his will. Nevertheless, this permission is not without consequences, as the Bible makes it clear that Satan and the fallen angels will ultimately face judgment and eternal destruction. This concept leads us to an important reflection on divine patience and God's plan for redemption. The temporary existence of evil does not indicate a weakness or indifference on God's part. Rather, it reveals his justice and love, which do not impose forced obedience upon his creatures. God allows the temporary existence of evil to fulfill a specific purpose, which will ultimately be extinguished according to his sovereign plan. For many Christians, one of the biggest questions is why God, being all-powerful, allows the presence of evil, particularly in the case of Satan and the fallen angels. Understanding the role of evil in the biblical narrative requires a broader view that considers Satan's fall and the unfolding of human history. Evil serves as a contrast to good and as a stimulus for strengthening faith and spiritual maturity. Although personified in Satan and his followers, evil exists within the limits permitted by God and subordinate to his redemptive purpose. A classic example is the book of Job, where Satan needs God's permission to test Job's faith. This passage illustrates that evil is not outside God's control, but can be used for greater purposes, such as spiritual growth and the resilience of the faithful. Moreover, evil reveals divine justice and mercy, for without the existence of evil, the concept of good would lose its value, and God's justice, which distinguishes the righteous from the wicked, could not be fully demonstrated. Thus, the presence of evil is part of the context in which God's redemptive plan unfolds. And in this context, Christ's sacrifice becomes the supreme act of love, rescuing humanity from sin and death. The existence of Satan and the fallen angels also highlights God's patience. Instead of immediately destroying the rebels, He allows them to exist for a time until His plan of salvation is fully realized. The Apostle Peter recalls this in his second letter, emphasizing that the Lord is patient, not wanting anyone to perish, but for all to come to repentance. Divine justice, a central theme in the Bible, does not act on human impulses to punish evil immediately. God acts with balance, considering His holiness and mercy, and His justice allows truths to be fully revealed and the consequences of choices to manifest. While human vision is limited by time and emotions, God sees eternity and understands the appropriate timing for each event. Thus, He chose to let the redemptive plan develop according to His sovereign purpose, allowing good and evil to be revealed before the final judgment. Jesus exemplifies this in the parable of the wheat and tares, where the servants are instructed to wait until the harvest, so as not to harm the wheat when removing the tares. Another essential point is that divine justice does not act impulsively or arbitrarily. Even Satan and the fallen angels, despite their rebellion, are not immediately annihilated, as God acts according to perfect justice that involves both retribution and the recognition that evil fulfills a temporary role in the divine plan. This patience offers each human being the opportunity to choose between good and evil, and strengthens the faith of those who resist evil, drawing them closer to God. Divine justice is thus intrinsically linked to His holiness and the preservation of His unchanging order. The ultimate fate of Satan and his angels is sealed, and the Bible clearly states they will not escape God's judgment. In the book of Revelation, Satan's defeat is described in definitive terms. He will be cast into the lake of fire, a place of eternal condemnation. This judgment, which will also apply to the fallen angels, brings hope to Christians, reinforcing that in the end, good will triumph definitively over evil. For Christians, the end of evil marks the beginning of a new creation, free from sin and corruption, where harmony and peace will be restored. The Bible offers a comforting vision of this new state, where there will be no more suffering, death, or pain, and where God's presence will be fully realized. This is the ultimate hope of Christians who await the complete fulfillment of the divine plan in a new heaven and a new earth. In this new creation, evil will have no place, and God's order will be entirely restored, overcoming and purifying all present suffering. The certainty that evil will have a definitive end, as promised in the Bible, is a hope that strengthens the faith of Christians who look forward to the day when all pain, sin, and suffering will be eliminated forever. At God's appointed time, all things will be restored, and the original harmony between the Creator and His creation will be complete and perfect. Knowing that evil does not have the final word, and that there is a purpose even in God's patience with evil, brings comfort and gives meaning to the journey of faith, courage, and perseverance of those who follow Christ. In the end, evil will be eradicated, and the eternal kingdom of peace and justice will triumph. This hope is the foundation of Christian faith, an invitation to persevere and live in communion with God, assured that in the new creation, evil will never again find a place. I know that as humans, it is sometimes difficult to grasp these concepts, since it might seem far easier if evil did not exist. But perhaps evolution wouldn't either. Now that we've reached the end, what are your thoughts on this video? Would you eliminate all evil? Let's reflect together for a new perspective on the world. By doing so, we help one another. May God always be with you. Until next time.